It's that time again. It's Trope Talk with the Writing Gals, and I am Michelle Pennington.
And I'm Victorine Liskey.
And this week we are talking about the trope Secret Baby.
Yes.
And before we get started, I have to tell you about a funny conversation I have with my daughter, who's a big time reader. I hear a lot about tropes that she doesn't really like. And so we started talking about this. And I said, Holly, I'm going to write the perfect book for you. It's going to be a secret baby, second chance, age gap romance. And she was like, no, because it's like the three things that she has a hard time with.
She doesn't like those.
But of those three, I think her least favorite is definitely the secret baby. And I have a kind of like personal preference to not have secret baby tropes in my stories either. But I've seen it happen. I've actually enjoyed some,
Mhm.
a couple of C dramas. Um, so I'm just going to start this conversation by saying what my big struggle with secret baby is that I always want to know why the baby's a secret. This is so wrong. It's so wrong that the dad doesn't know that the baby is his.
Yes.
And so do you make her not likable for not telling this poor, like if he's a really nice guy, then why didn't she tell him? And if it's because he's not a really great guy, then you're like, okay, well now how do I like the love interest if he's not a great guy? So
Yes.
in
No,
general,
I think the perfect way to get around that is to just have them separate and not be able to communicate with each other for some reason. He is out of the country. She lost his phone number. I don't know. Some reason they
yeah,
cannot
you never knew.
tell him,
Yeah.
right? And he just happens upon her one day with this. Now they have a baby, and yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna remember this title, and you probably won't either, but there is a C drama where, um, she didn't want him to stop his, like, education and career goals that were really important to him, and so she didn't tell him about it, but then later, her son has, like, a heart defect,
Um,
and they needed to, like, test the father or the father to, like, I don't know. There was some medical reason why she needed to get in contact with the dad, and so I could kind of vibe with that, and I kind of really enjoyed it, and just, like, when we talk about sorry, other characters that are good in a secret baby, I think I actually like it when the kid is a little bit older.
mhm.
Because then the kid can kind of act like a matchmaker between the
Yes,
2, and they can have a lot of personality, and they can have a lot of influence on the story itself, whereas when they're a baby, it's a little bit more difficult for them to play that role as a character.
I agree.
But I often see secret baby in some tropes where the male protagonist is someone who is hard to love, which is some people love that trope, like a hard to love kind of trope. So it might be like an alpha hole, it might be, a mafia, person, some kind of like um, billionaire who is seen as being like greedy and cold and distant, um, or like a playboy that is never going to settle down. So that's really common, and that's when the the mother would be like, "Yeah, I don't want this guy raising my baby."
Mhm.
And so they run away, keep it secret, and all that sort of stuff. Now, the turning point in all these romances that redeems everybody is when it turns out he is a great dad, right?
Yes, exactly.
It would be kind of part of me is like, is there some sort of like, could you do it in sci-fi where the mother doesn't know there's a baby? This is one
She
trope.
was in a coma for 9 months. She has no idea she had a baby.
Yeah, this is one trope where it's like kind of hard to twist the
Yes.
gender role in it. But you could do it, I suppose. Like, I don't know.
So, the one I'm writing right now, she gave birth in prison. She doesn't tell the father because he's crappy, and,
Right?
she gives the baby up for adoption, and then the new dad, she she seeks out her baby and becomes the nanny for the new father. And so kind of a secret baby because he doesn't know she's his kid's mom. So
Yeah.
if you can
You're
twist it like
you're gonna have some work to do redeeming her for that personally. I'm
that.
sure you can handle it, but
I I hopefully redeemed her pretty good in the book, but
yeah, that's, a lot of stories like this are about redemption. I think like
yeah.
second chance romances are about redemption in a lot of ways, and this one is too. Um, Now, one of the fun things about Secret Baby is, again, the adhesion, right? That before, these 2 people obviously, um, were separate. They were living lives apart from each other, and now because of this human they created together, they are pulled together.
Yes.
And so that is great, but, like, again, the reasons that she kept it a secret are the obstacles, the conflict. There are a few other kind of twists you can do with this trope where maybe it's not the father that discovers the baby, where it's maybe like his brother or like a family member. And you know, it could even be where Mrs. Winterbourne was where she tried to act like he was the father and he wasn't, right?
Mhm.
And then he decides to take the baby anyway. So the secret baby is like, surprise, it's not really your baby. He's like, it is now. I fell for this baby and I love it, so it's mine now, kind of
That's
thing.
right.
So there's a few different ways that you can twist it. But I think it's fun because one of the things we want to do with a character to make them likable, people always say, is to show them as being compassionate and capable people. And once you see how someone interacts with a child, then it can completely disarm you, right? It
Mhm.
can be like, okay, I was prepared to thoroughly dislike you, but now that I see you being sweet,
Yes.
I'm all, for it. And when you have a really, really cold, distant, um, stern, Sunder kind of male character especially, and then they start having, like, just little giveaways, like, slipping the kid a treat or, like, letting them stay up past their bedtime or her coming home and finding them, like, in a wrestling match or, like, all these, like, moments where you wouldn't expect him to act the way he does, but
Mhm.
secretly that kid is kind of worming their way into their heart and then then their true teddy bear inside starts coming out. So what are some things that can break them apart? If the baby's pulling them together, what would break them apart? What could be a dark moment?
Hmm.
Like I remember Mrs. Winterbourne, it was the discovery that it wasn't really like his baby, but
Yeah, it was yes. So, hmm. I'm trying to remember how I did it in mine. So I wrote one, Arya's Christmas Wish. It's a Christmas one. And she didn't tell him she was pregnant because he went off to start a singing career and the mom stopped all communication between the two of them. So
mm.
that's why he didn't know. I'm trying to remember why they break up. I don't remember.
So one It's been a while. So one of the things I've seen done is where the mom was dying,
Oh.
and so she needed somebody to take care of the baby, so then she would, like, bring the baby into the father's life again, and then once everything was settled and seemed good, then she kind of ran away to go do her dying alone
Mm.
kind of thing, and then, the billionaire has to swoop in with his army of doctors and specialists and experts and unlimited budget
Save her.
and saves her life, kind of thing. So it can be something like that where for some reason the woman decides to like step away.
Yeah.
But you could also have, I don't think you should ever have it be where he makes her distrust him again, where he
Yeah, I
breaks,
agree.
like at this point he cannot break her trust in any way, shape, or form. But what you can do is have an outside person make her feel like her child's life is threatened.
Mhm.
I think that especially works in the case of um, like a mafia romance where the situation was dangerous, or like a politician if their life is really high profile and they have like a lot of people
Sure.
trying to take them out for whatever reason, or maybe a business person who isn't able to devote the time for
Yeah.
whatever reason, because and then like there's some big misunderstanding. He's like, look, I just needed to make this deal and then I was going to devote the rest of
Yes.
my life to you and our child, and we're
Yeah,
going to spend more.
I think that's kinda what I did in mine, because he's famous now, he's a famous singer, and throughout the whole them back together, in her mind, it's like, "Well, this isn't gonna last. He's just here for Christmas with his mom,
Mhm.
and then he's gonna go back to his famous life, and we can't have a relationship," and so I'm pretty sure that's what breaks them apart in the end,
Yeah,
is that big, "You're famous, and
yeah,
you're gonna go back to your famous life."
yeah. I think one decision you have to make in this trope is whether or not they're going to get married for the child's sake.
Mm,
Because then you have the marriage of all the marriage of convenience stuff coming in. Um,
true.
with the living together, learning to build some sort of life for the child and this sort of thing. Otherwise, it's like I think that's one of the easiest ways to create that adhesion. Otherwise, is it just like visitations? Is it like
Yeah, I don't know. I think for the most part, most of them are either chance romance because they're meeting again. They had
yeah,
a relationship and now they're meeting again,
clearly,
or it's a one night stand type of thing where they never had a real relationship. It was just a one night stand, and then now they have to figure things out because of this baby.
yeah. And so you're going to go through a lot of stages of yes, we're doing this for the child, but at some point it has to switch over to be about them.
Yeah,
They're that all of the like living together, acts of service, like whatever they're doing, um, that maybe was once for the child now starts to be about like the relationship and pursuing it. And then at some point, again, there has to be this moment of I want this to be real. I want us to be a family. So
yeah.
that's the twist on I want it to be real. In this trope, it needs to be I want us to be a family.
Mhm.
Um, and it can always be tricky when you have the other woman character. She's like my favorite, and so many people hate her. I have one story, one of my billionaire romances, the trust was it the trust of the billionaire, um, where I had a reviewer give me like one of those. She wrote a whole novel herself about my book and how bad it was that there was another woman character.
Aw.
And so, like, I really pushed her buttons with that one.
Yeah, you did.
But I think the other woman character is so delicious. It just makes
Well, it brings in so much good tension, right?
so much good tension, and I think in this trope especially,
Mhm.
I might say that for every trope, but in Secret Baby, he might be in a committed relationship with someone else when she waltzes back into life
Yes.
with this baby,
Yeah.
right? Um, if she I think it could really only go that direction, because if she was in a happy committed relationship where she was supported and had like a father figure and like things,
Right.
you'd have to work harder
To
to
break
have a
them apart.
reason for her to go back to the biological father. But he can have a relationship. It can be a
Mhm.
committed one, it could be one like where he is in it for convenience, like for some status reason and he doesn't really love her. Or for like, I think it's always really hard when someone's in a relationship where they care about that person, because then you have to break down that relationship and you
Yes.
have to show why that person is not the right one for him.
Mhm.
And so you could really have a lot of like jealousy going on in this trope too if you bring in the other woman. And then there is always, I think one of the best parts, if I was to say a part about Secret Baby that I like, it would be that the child isn't usually only going to be meeting their father, right? All of a sudden they can be introduced to a whole group of family members, like a grandparent that will absolutely dote on them, or aunts and uncles or cousins, or maybe even a sibling. I don't
Yeah.
know. But anyways, then this kid can get introduced to this whole family that's going to spoil them rotten and love them and create this network around them, that is really, really touching and heartwarming. So that is a really good opportunity you have in the secret baby trope, um, to bring in those
I
great
agree.
secondary characters there. Is there anything else that we just have to say about Secret Baby besides I will probably not ever write one?
I think we covered everything.
My husband always says this thing, if you say something kind of controversial, he's like, "Oh, your inbox is gonna start filling up." To start hearing from people like I'm a terrible person because I don't like this trope. I can see
And
the
we all have our favorites
you
and
do.
our dislikes.
I can see the benefits and why people would really like this trope. Um, and I think that a man with a kid is always super attractive.
It is, yes, I agree.
So if it's handled and written well, then I can really enjoy this trope.
Nice.
But it's a fun one. We haven't talked about what we're gonna talk about next, but I kind of want to talk about billionaires. I don't know about
Oh,
you.
yeah, let's do it.
I've written a lot of billionaires, and I know you have too. We're kind of like
Mhm.
billionaire queens, right?
That's right. I love
So,
the billionaire trope.
so tune in next week, and we'll talk about the rich guys.
Sounds good. And check out our Writing Gals Academy while you're looking at things. I'll put a link down below. It is a collection of classes that we've done in past conferences
And other
that you
teachers.
can, and sorry?
Oh, other teachers too. It's not just us
Yes.
looking at you.
Yes, yes. Tons of teachers, and we have just a great resource of classes that teach you how to write, how to publish, and how to market your books. And so
You
check
watch
that out. Put it in the links below.
and come back next week, and you can do that by subscribing. Want to
Yes,
miss the rest of the series? There are a million tropes for us to get through. My
there are.
come on this journey with us because it's fun.
All right, we'll see you later.
Bye.